Plus, honoring a hero. Just months after joining the front lines in New York City, one of those incredible nurses is now fighting a battle of his own with an inspiring spirit.
If I could be in Texas or Miami helping with the current spike in cases next week, I would.
We'll have his story just ahead. Today, Friday, July 10th, 2020.
We are back with On the Front Lines. When New York City became the nation's hotspot for coronavirus, the epicenter, there was a call for help that was put out to doctors and nurses all over the country.
Yeah, a guy named Ian Youngblood, an ER nurse in Arizona, was one of many who answered that call. Ian stayed here for 78 days, battling right on the front lines until he discovered some life-threatening news of his own.
My name's Ian Youngblood. I'm originally from Seattle, Washington, living in Phoenix, Arizona now.
We first met 29-year-old ER nurse Ian Youngblood back in April when he arrived in New York City to help fight the COVID-19 battle on the front lines.
You got providers breaking left and right, but then they're still going out the next day and they're being strong for someone else.
Ian is known by his colleagues for not just being an incredible nurse, but having a heart of gold.
When we first met Ian, all I remember seeing was this huge smile. It was this guy who had this bubbly personality and this huge, huge smile that you can't forget.
He's such a selfless person. He loves to help people. And you could see that desire in him when he would go to work.
All right, now we're okay.
And even in the hardest times, Ian can find joy, like swing dancing in the middle of Times Square. Ian is also a former firefighter and tough as nails. Which is why, friends say, it was odd when he began complaining of excruciating headaches and nausea. They convinced him to get an MRI. The results came back with a devastating diagnosis: glioblastoma, an aggressive form of brain cancer.
Glioblastoma has been one of the hardest cancers to treat in the history of mankind.
Ian's neuro-oncologist, Dr. Nader Sanai of the Ivy Brain Tumor Center in Phoenix, says there are patients who can survive this cancer, and his hope is for Ian to be one of them.
Get back to life. We want him to get back to work. We want him to be active, and certainly want him to do things that are meaningful for him.
Ian has since had surgery to remove part of his brain tumor, and his friends have set up a GoFundMe account to help him with the cost of his treatments. Ian is now back home in Phoenix, getting ready to begin chemo. Hey, Ian, it's so good to see you. So just tell me how you're doing right now.
I'm doing good. I'm just taking one day at a time. The most I can do is just take a breath each day and go from there. You can see I have this nice zipper that goes all the way across my head, which is definitely strange. It was odd being in the bed rather than the person taking care of the person in the bed.
It seems like you are by nature a helper. You were a firefighter. You went to nursing after that. Is that sort of in your DNA?
Yeah, I remember back when I was a little kid just doing little tiny things to help other people. And it's funny when you look back at your past experiences and how it kind of draws you towards your current career and profession.
There's a moment where anyone's life would change completely. But when you heard the doctor say to you, Ian, you have brain cancer, what did you think in that moment, Ian?
I mean, first, no one ever expects at 29 that you're going to get diagnosed with something that could potentially take your life in 2 years, depending on what statistic you read. So to answer your question, it's, it just kind of like, I'm 29, like, so it kind of hits you kind of strange.
What are they saying the prognosis is? I mean, I'm looking at you, you look great, you've got the optimism in the eyes. Like, what do we think going forward?
They are optimistic about where the tumor was growing. They're optimistic that the treatment plan that they're going with is going to be super aggressive against it.
Ian, a year from now, are you going to be back in scrubs, back at it?
I mean, if I could be in Texas or Miami helping with the current spike in cases next week, I would. I want to be out in the field, and I want to keep going, and help where my specialty and my experience can be most beneficial.
And we wish the same thing for this young healthcare hero, which he has given us in our darkest times. Hope.
You guys, think about him for 1 second.
That's heavy.
He just said that he would go back in a minute, right? In a week if he could. And he also said one of the most difficult things was when he was having his surgery, his mom really wanted to fly in and be with him because it happened here in New York. And because of everything that was going on, she couldn't come to be with him. And he was worried about her health, which is just the kind of guy he is. But picture a guy just like that. When you think about the problems you have and what you're going through, you look at this guy and you say to yourself, well, like, my stuff's not so bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Helping is clearly in his DNA as well.
Yeah.
Anybody can beat it. He looks like a good candidate. 29,
Yes.
you know, he looks like an athlete.
Right, he's healthy. He said that all he can do is eat right. He said, I'm doing all the things they're letting me do. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to exercise. He has aggressive chemo.
Right.
And he said he's going to do all the things the doctors say. And his only goal is to get back into hospitals to help other people.
But it also seems like he possesses the perfect attitude to beat it too. Like, as you pointed out, the optimism in the eyes there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. An extra boost on this Friday morning.